Well, as I say, today is the Reformation Sunday of our church. And it seemed to me that since this is our birthday, it might be a good day to answer the question, why are you a Lutheran? Has anyone ever asked you that question? Why are you a Lutheran? I've been asked that question. I have. Now, perhaps if you haven't, maybe you will be. And so today, I'm going to give you an answer to that question. When someone says to you, why are you a Lutheran? You're going to have two words to say. Solo gratia. Can you say that? Solo gratia. And they're going to say, huh? And then you're going to translate that for them. Grace alone. That's why I'm a Lutheran. That's why I'm a Lutheran. And in order to translate that, I want to give you a parable to tell. A parable that comes out of my reading of the Apostle Paul's most famous argument regarding grace from the 3rd chapter of Romans, which you've just heard read. Paul says, "But now, apart from the law, the righteousness of God has been disclosed, the righteousness of God through faith in Jesus Christ for all who believe." So, a parable. Imagine that you live in a very large orphanage. You are one of hundreds and hundreds of children who, through no fault of your own, have been left without caretaker or parent to watch over you. You really have no memory of living anywhere else because when you were just a babe in arms, you were left in this place. Now, this orphanage is very, very adequate in many ways. You have food to eat. You have a bed to sleep in, clothes to wear, companions to play with. You have, in many ways, all you need. There is, however, one very mysterious and troubling aspect of life in this orphanage. And that is the spiritual quality of this place. Now, it's not that God is not present or God is not mentioned. No, far from it. Indeed, God is mentioned very many times. And it is not that God is not worshiped. No, indeed, you are required to attend worship regularly. And sometimes the services are very, very long. And it's not that God is not present at all or distant. No, in fact, God is very present, and that's why it's so terrifying. Because you see, the operative spirit in this home of yours is that God's primary characteristic is wrath. Wrath. In other words, the driving force behind this place that you live in is that God rules over everything, and God is unmerciful, demanding, unforgiving, and dispassionate. God demands righteousness from you, say your superiors, and you better pay attention or you are going straight to hell. That's the message. Now, as you might expect, this state of affairs has different effects on different people. Some of the children who hear this message think, not me. I'm paying no attention to that. And they deal with this state of affairs by being as naughty as possible. Behind the backs of their superiors, they do all sorts of nasty things. They curse and swear and give their superiors the finger. They sneak booze and steal cigarettes from the neighborhood gas station, and they are as naughty as possible. Their attitude is, there's no way I can be righteous, so why try? And they say to those who try, you are a bunch of hypocrites. There's another group of children who have kind of a laissez-faire attitude towards this situation. They say, okay, I'll do my best to live up to the standards of righteousness, but hey, nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. I'm not going to worry about it too much. God can't be that wrathful. They're sort of agnostic when it comes to God's wrath. There's another group, however, that is anything but agnostic. They are what we call super pious. They are engaged in constant acts of superstition and piety. They feverishly deny themselves many pleasures. They refuse to seek the comforts and delights of life because they think that if God demands righteousness of them, certainly God would not be pleased if they were at ease at any point. They are super serious about their religious practices, and they look down their noses at anyone who isn't. Finally, there is a fourth group. They are just plain terrified of God. They look at themselves, and all they see is that they fall short. They've heard that God is holy, and they must be, and they are terrified. Try as they may be, they cannot be holy, and they know it. And so their life is filled with anxiety. They have doubts about God, but they dare not admit them. They have anger toward God and others, but they dare not admit that. They are filled with anxiety until the judgment day, and they can barely sleep at night, wondering if they will be saved. So, as I say, this home of yours is adequate in many ways. Indeed. Yet, the operative spirit in this place, the driving force behind this place, is that God's primary characteristic is wrath. And you better pay attention if you know what's good for you. But one day, everything changes. Everything. Because one day, the word comes to you that you have been adopted. You and some other children as well have been chosen to be part of someone's family. The papers have been signed, the agreements have been made, and you are no longer the charge of the orphanage. You are now a member of an amazing family. You are a son or a daughter, a joint heir, it turns out, of an incredibly wealthy family. Now, the outward signs of your amazing parents are not immediately obvious. The home that you move into is not grand. The food you are served, the bed you sleep in, the games you play are all familiar. And yet something is remarkably different. You soon learn that it is the spiritual state of this new home of yours that is so different. It turns out that the operative spirit, the driving force behind everything in this new home of yours, is that God's primary characteristic is mercy. Mercy. No longer is God understood to be primarily a God of wrath, but instead a God of mercy. The other children who have lived here before you tell you, you have been chosen by grace. It's a pure gift. Our parents have chosen us freely and given us all things freely, just out of their great love. And whatever we lack in righteousness will be given to us freely as well. We marvel at this. We say, certainly there must be some reason why we were chosen other than love. Is it perhaps because we tried harder to be righteous than the others? Or is there something attractive about us that our parents chose us? And the other children say, here, come, look in the mirror. And so we are led to the hallway in our new home, and we look in the mirror, and we see that we are shabbily dressed, we are bruised and beaten and sick and weak and broken. And we see that there is nothing that would commend us. There is nothing that would commend us to our new parents to have them claim us as their own. Grace alone, solo gratia, say our new brothers and sisters. That is why we are here. In the mystery of grace, we have been chosen. And there's nothing any of us can point to or boast about. So then, is there nothing I must do in order to remain in this household, we say? Is there no law? Are there no rules here? Well, of course, there are ways of living in this new family, but they come to us by virtue of our life together, they say. Our only real obligation is to live in love. And that can mean 1,000 things. We have been brought here by grace, and our lives together are formed by that same grace. We live graciously, one with another. And so we begin our new life in this new home as part of this amazing family. And we are amazed that we no longer feel the fear and anxiety that we once were plagued with. We no longer are caught up in this constant one-upmanship with one another, lest we fall short. We are no longer plagued with the need to please God in order to gain something from God or to avoid the punishment of God. We understand that God is primarily interested in giving us life and using us to bring life to others. And so day by day, we are free to live in any way that seems to lead to the life that God commands us to live. Solo gratia. We now know what that means. And every day we rise from our beds and we give praise and thanks to God who has claimed us, and we pray that this same God would use us to bring others under God's care. So So why are we Lutherans? Because this is how we understand our life with God. That God is not a God of wrath, but a God of mercy. And that way is the way of freedom and life for all. So someday when someone says to you, "Why are you a Lutheran?" you will say 2 words: Sola gratia. Thanks be to God. Amen.